Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
A few months ago, I started my own small online business selling handmade jewelry. Things were going well until I had to issue some refunds due to a shipping carrier losing several packages. The shipping company eventually compensated me, but by then I had already refunded my customers out of pocket. They were supposed to send me a reimbursement of $850 on a prepaid debit card. I was in Washington, D.C. for a business convention when the card was supposed to arrive. My sister had been staying at my place to watch my cat while I was away. Our mom had given her the only spare key to my mailbox years ago when she used to help me with errands during my recovery from surgery, and she never returned it. The tracking showed the card was delivered on a Monday. I didn't get back until late Tuesday night, exhausted from the trip. When I asked my sister if any important mail came for me, she handed me some junk mail and told me there was nothing important. A couple of months passed, and I still hadn't received the card. When I called the banking company to check on it, they dropped a bomb on me. The card had not only been delivered, but had been used extensively. There was only $2 left on it. I requested the transaction history, and what I found made my blood run cold. The first purchase was made Tuesday morning at a deli where my sister works. 3 days later, there was another charge at a different deli across the street from her workplace. But the most damning evidence came from November 8th. That morning, my sister texted me asking if I needed anything from Target, where she was heading. I replied that I didn't need anything. The transaction record showed a Target purchase at exactly the time she said she was going. There were too many coincidences to ignore. I tried to approach her about it. I told her we needed to talk about something serious, mentioning the refund card I was waiting for and suggesting she might know something about it. She asked what I was talking about, playing dumb. When I pointed out that the card was used at her workplace and the transactions matched her schedule perfectly, she got defensive and accused me of being ridiculous for suggesting she'd steal from me. I tried reasoning with her, saying if she took it, she could be honest and we could work something out with a gradual repayment plan. I explained that if she didn't do it, I'd have to file a police report so the company could investigate the fraud. She responded by calling me crazy for even thinking she'd do this, then stormed out. I had no choice but to file a police report. I showed the officer my train tickets, hotel reservations, and the card's tracking information to prove I wasn't even in town when the card arrived and the spending began. I explained my suspicions and the evidence pointing to my sister. That's when things got really ugly. She lost it completely, screaming that I was trying to ruin her life and everything she'd worked for, and that I would regret this. When I said I was just reporting what happened and she had nothing to worry about if she was innocent, she threatened to take me to court for filing a false police report, accusing me of trying to frame her. A week later, I received a cease and desist letter from her supposed attorney, claiming I was harassing her. She filed a complaint at the municipal court, forcing me into mediation for harassment. She's threatening to sue me for defamation and lying to the police. But here's where it gets interesting. During the investigation, the police subpoenaed security footage from several stores where the card was used. Guess who showed up in multiple videos, clear as day, using my refund card? My sister, in her work uniform, making purchases at the exact times recorded in the transaction history. The detective handling the case was particularly interested in her cease and desist letter and harassment claims. Turns out the attorney letter was fake. She had used a template from the internet and forged a signature. Now she's not just facing theft charges, but also charges for filing false reports and forging legal documents. The mediator took one look at the evidence and dismissed her harassment claims immediately. Her threats of a civil lawsuit disappeared pretty quickly after that. She's trying to negotiate a plea deal to avoid jail time, but she'll definitely have to pay restitution and might end up with a criminal record. As for my mom, she finally asked for that mailbox key back. I was exhausted after pulling a double shift at the hospital. As an emergency room nurse, I'm used to crazy situations. but nothing could have prepared me for what happened in that parking lot that night. All I wanted was to watch my friend's band perform at this popular downtown venue, a small reward after 16 grueling hours of dealing with patients. The place was packed, as expected for a Friday night. I'd been circling the parking lot for 15 minutes when I finally spotted someone loading their groceries into their car getting ready to leave. I pulled up, put my turn signal on, and waited patiently. That's when I saw them. Two young women were walking through the parking lot, and one of them pointed at the spot I was waiting for. The shorter one, wearing a sparkly dress that looked like it belonged at a nightclub rather than a local music venue, walked over and just stood there, right in the middle of the parking spot. Her friend, who I would later come to know as Karen, stood nearby with a smug look on her face. I called out to them, letting them know I had been waiting for the spot. The girl in the sparkly dress just looked at her phone, pretending not to hear me. I rolled down my window further and repeated myself, pointing out that I had my signal on and everything. Karen smugly told me that since her friend was physically standing in the spot, it now belonged to them. When I tried to explain that's not how parking spots work and that I'd been waiting for the car to leave, she just repeated her first come, first served logic, insisting that her friend's physical presence in the spot made it theirs. The car that was leaving finally pulled out, and I couldn't believe what happened next. The girl in the sparkly dress just stood there, planted in the middle of the empty spot, still staring at her phone like this was completely normal behavior. I'd dealt with entitled people before in the emergency room, but this was a new level of absurd. After 16 hours of keeping my cool with difficult patients, I decided I wasn't going to let these two walk all over me. I inched my car forward very slowly, giving the girl plenty of time to move. Instead, she backed up against my bumper and started doing this weird sliding dance, like she was trying to make it look like I was pushing her. I warned them about my dash cam recording everything, suggesting they might want to move. That's when Karen started screaming about me assaulting her friend with my car and calling for someone to get the police involved. The girl in the sparkly dress dramatically threw herself onto my hood, laying there like she was posing for a photo shoot. I told her to get off my car, again reminding her about the dash cam recording everything. Karen was already on her phone with the police, dramatically claiming that I had hit her friend with my car in the parking lot and that her friend was injured, begging them to hurry. By this point, a small crowd had gathered. A couple who had seen everything from the beginning approached. The man told me they had witnessed the whole thing, and that the women were trying to scam me. His wife added that they had recorded everything on their phones and confirmed the women were lying. The girl on my hood started moaning dramatically, wailing about her supposedly broken back and claiming she'd never walk again. The police arrived surprisingly quickly, probably because we were downtown. Two officers approached, looking concerned until they saw the scene. A girl in a sparkly dress played across my hood like she was doing a fashion shoot, while her friend waved her arms frantically. Karen immediately started pleading with the officers, insisting that I had deliberately hit her friend with my car. I told them about my dash cam and pointed to the witnesses with their phone recordings. One officer reviewed my dash cam footage, while the other watched the witnesses' recordings. The girl finally slid off my hood when she realized the police weren't buying her performance. The first officer explained to the women that standing in a parking spot to reserve it wasn't legal, and pointed out that the dash cam clearly showed her backing into my vehicle and throwing herself on the hood. The second officer noted that they could see how slowly I had been moving and suggested this looked like attempted insurance fraud. When Karen tried to protest their innocence, the first officer revealed that they'd had 3 incidents reported in the area over the past month, all with the same scam pattern of someone standing in a parking spot, claiming they got hit, and trying to get an insurance payout. The girl in the sparkly dress suddenly found her mobility again and started backing away, but the second officer ordered them to stay put, explaining they needed to take their statements and check their IDs. It turned out these two had pulled this stunt before. The police found their names in the system linked to 2 other incidents at different parking lots, but the previous victims hadn't had cameras. They were arrested for attempted insurance fraud, and I found out later they had been running this scam across several venues in the city. I still made it to my friend's performance, only missing the first song. A month later, I got called to testify against them in court. Turns out they had successfully scammed 2 other drivers for insurance settlements, but those cases got reopened after their arrest. They ended up having to pay back all the money and got slapped with some hefty fines. I've been working at this hotel for about 3 years now. Started right after finishing my associate's degree in hospitality management, figuring it would be a good stepping stone while I save up for my bachelor's. The pay isn't great, but the schedule works with my online classes, and most days I actually enjoy the work. Well, at least I did until my co-workers started proving they shouldn't be trusted with basic cleaning supplies. It started with one of the new hires spraying bathroom cleaners straight up instead of at the surface they were supposed to clean. Obviously, it fell right back down into their eyes. Then another genius decided to shake a bottle of disinfectant with the nozzle pointing at their face. Within a month, we had 3 separate incidents of people getting cleaning chemicals in their eyes. My supervisor called an emergency meeting about workplace safety. She announced that, due to the recent incidents, management had decided all housekeeping staff must wear protective eyewear while performing their duties. I asked if we really needed to wear them even when making beds. My supervisor stated that yes, we did, and it wasn't negotiable. I tried to point out how ridiculous it was, asking how I could possibly get cleaning chemicals in my eyes while putting on pillowcases. My co-worker beside me, who I'll call Miss Smart because she was one of the spray bottle offenders, jumped in with her 2 cents. She cheerfully proclaimed that it was better to be safe than sorry, and that we needed to protect ourselves. I had to bite my tongue to keep from asking her if she needed protection from her own stupidity. Our supervisor then told us that they'd ordered a variety of safety glasses and goggles, and everyone needed to pick a pair by the end of the day. She emphasized that they must be worn at all times during our shifts. After the meeting, we all gathered around this massive box of the cheapest-looking safety equipment I'd ever seen. While everyone else was fighting over the least ugly pairs, I had an idea. I asked my supervisor if we were allowed to customize these as long as they still met safety requirements. My supervisor looked tired. She probably spent the whole morning dealing with incident reports and safety protocols. She wearily told me that as long as they protected my eyes and I could see through them, she didn't care what they looked like. That was all I needed to hear. I grabbed the most basic pair of disposable safety glasses and headed home after my shift. I've been taking some art classes on the side and I had plenty of craft supplies. I carefully removed the protective plastic pieces from the glasses and attached them to my prescription light-blocking glasses. Then came the fun part. I added googly eyes all over the frames, like everywhere. Big ones, small ones, medium ones. The more ridiculous, the better. For the finishing touch, I took some soft purple yarn and created a little caterpillar that sat perfectly on the nose bridge. It was both comfortable and completely absurd. The next morning I walked into work wearing my masterpiece. Miss Smart immediately exclaimed in horror that they couldn't possibly be regulation. I explained that they actually were, pointing out that they had the required protective panels and I had permission to customize them. Another co-worker incredulously asked if I seriously thought these were appropriate for work. I responded by asking why they wouldn't be, explaining that they protected my eyes, I could see perfectly, and they met all safety requirements. I added that they were actually way more comfortable than those flimsy plastic ones. My supervisor walked by, did a double take, and just kept walking. She couldn't say anything. She'd given me permission after all. The interesting part came when the hotel manager showed up for a surprise inspection. He took one look at my glasses, started laughing, and actually complimented my creativity. Then he turned to my supervisor and praised this kind of thinking, saying it was exactly what they needed, following safety protocols while maintaining a positive attitude. Miss Smart and the others who'd been giving me grief looked like they'd swallowed lemons, but it got even better. By the end of the week, 3 other housekeepers had decorated their safety glasses too. One made theirs look like a butterfly, another added little stars all over, and someone even copied my googly eyes idea but made theirs look like a monster. Now, whenever new hires come in and see us working in our ridiculously decorated safety glasses, they look confused until someone tells them the story of how 3 people managed to spray themselves in the face with cleaning products in the span of a month. And yes, I did pass that drug test on Monday. Turns out you can be both responsible and ridiculous at the same time. My googly-eyed, caterpillar-nosed safety glasses are now somewhat of a hotel legend, and I've never once gotten cleaning spray in my eyes, though that might be because I actually know how to point a bottle. My husband and I are both professionals in our early 30s. We met at work 6 years ago and got married 3 years later. We've always been practical people. We saved up, bought a modest 3-bedroom apartment in a nice area, and planned our lives carefully. I work full-time at a marketing agency while doing some freelance work on the side, and my husband has a hybrid work arrangement with his tech company. When we first moved in, we set up our apartment perfectly. Master bedroom for us, a guest room for visitors, and an office space we shared for our work. Everything was going great, and then last year, we found out I was pregnant. We were overjoyed and immediately started planning how to reorganize our space for the baby. After much discussion, we decided to convert the guest room into a nursery. The office, while not strictly necessary since we could work from the dining table or couch, has been crucial for our productivity. Plus, we rarely have overnight guests, maybe once or twice a year at most. Our son was born in October, and he's absolutely perfect. My father, who lives abroad, hasn't met him in person yet. The last time he visited, I was still pregnant, and he stayed in what was then our guest room. About 2 weeks ago, my father called about his upcoming Christmas visit. He asked if the guest room was still available for his arrival on the 23rd. I explained that we'd converted it into the baby's nursery, but assured him he could stay in the office where we'd set up a comfortable mattress. He seemed confused and asked why we hadn't used the office for the baby instead. When I tried to explain that we needed the office space for work and used it regularly, especially with the baby, he dismissed my explanation. He insisted we didn't need an office since we could work anywhere. When I attempted to explain how important it was for our work-life balance, he cut me off and tersely said he'd get a hotel instead before hanging up on me. The next day, my phone buzzed with a long text from him. In it, he accused me of being selfish and inconsiderate for choosing to keep an office over a proper guest room. He criticized my hosting abilities, saying he hadn't raised me to be such a terrible hostess. He declared that expecting guests to sleep on a mattress on the floor was completely unacceptable, and finished by saying my mother would be disappointed in me. That last part really stung. My mother passed away when I was in college, and he rarely brings her up unless he's trying to manipulate me. Then my sister got involved. She called me that evening and immediately started berating me about my treatment of our father. When I asked what she meant, pointing out that I'd offered him a perfectly good place to sleep, she got even more upset. She accused me of making our father sleep on the floor when he was traveling all this way to see his grandson. I tried to explain that it was a proper mattress, not just a sleeping bag, and reiterate our need for the office, but she wouldn't listen. Instead, she argued that we didn't need the office, we just wanted it, and that made us incredibly selfish. At this point, I'd had enough. I took a deep breath and agreed with her. Yes, we did want the office. I explained that we wanted a dedicated workspace in our home that we paid for. We wanted to maintain our productivity while raising a newborn. And yes, we wanted to prioritize our daily needs over a guest room that gets used twice a year. I told her that if that made me a bad hostess, so be it. I made it clear that Dad was welcome to stay in the office or get a hotel. His choice, but I wouldn't be guilted about how I organize my own home. She just called me impossible and hung up. I blocked both their numbers for the rest of the day to get some peace. When I unblocked them the next morning, I had a message from my father saying he'd booked a hotel and would be minimizing his time in our inhospitable home. Fine by me. My husband and I have decided to use the money we saved on hosting, food, utilities, etc. to treat ourselves to a nice New Year's dinner instead. And you know what? The office is working great as both a workspace and an occasional guest room. My best friend stayed over last weekend and said the mattress was perfectly comfortable. Sometimes I wonder if my father realizes that by throwing this tantrum, he's only proving we made the right choice in prioritizing our peace of mind over a guest room. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.